Good afternoon. I'm going to try and paint for you today 3 family snapshots. The first one I call Living the American Dream. This family has a beautiful house and 2 great cars in the garage, and they are just living the American dream with 2 kids, and a husband who has his own company, and the wife who just works part-time and takes the kids to all their dance lessons and so on. And they are just enjoying themselves in this beautiful home. The next snapshot I call Barely Hanging On. This couple is living in a dilapidated rental property, and they are just barely making ends meet, can hardly pay the rent each month. The husband has started using drugs a little more than recreationally, and they're really struggling to make ends meet. The kids are doing well in school, but they are not in any extracurricular activities because there isn't any money for it. The third picture I want to paint I call Living with a Purpose. Now this couple and their family live in a wonderful home too, but they don't really care where they live because they are living for Christ. And everything they do goes around the church that they are involved in. The husband is a pastor of the church, and the wife works full-time. They entertain. Their children are active in the church youth group, and they live solely for Christ. Now these pictures there's nothing really special about each one of these. There's millions of families like this across the United States. What is different about this is that these pictures are of the same family several years apart. From the American dream to the dilapidated rental home to living with a purpose. And that's my story. I don't know how, I love that house with the rose garden that we had in the American dream. And I don't know how it slid so fast into the second picture, but slide it did. But that's not really the end of the story, because we have the third picture, Living with a Purpose. And that's where my husband and I are at now. And he met Christ, became a Christian, and pursued becoming a pastor. So that's the story, how it went from nothing to something that God put back together. I like to think of it as we started life based on just marriage as we knew it. We started building our lives, got jobs, had our first house, had our first kid. We moved to another state and got new jobs. We had some more children. We bought new houses. We lived together, and of course we had squabbles, but we got along pretty well, and we usually worked things out. And here we were with our marriage. Now the marriage started to crumble for me, one block at a time, and I lost my trust in my husband as he started acting erratically and didn't come home till very, very late at night and was often gone. I couldn't reach him. He started missing family activities, kids' games, and family luncheons. And his business started to suffer, and I had to go back to work. I remember the first time I was doing the laundry and I found a cut-off straw in his shirt pocket. And I thought, oh my goodness, he's into cocaine. But it was crystal methamphetamines, and I didn't even know anything about that or what they were. But he was hooked on them, and that really started dilapidating our marriage. And I remember one night when I had gone back to work, he was gone all night, and I went back to work the next day, and a coworker listened to me talk, but that was a male, and that started an emotional attachment, which ended in an affair. And for Carl, he always thought, even though I was yelling at him all the time during this period, he thought I always had his back and nothing I did would ever compromise our marriage. So when he found out about the affair, it broke down his trust all the way in one fell swoop. And we were left with barely nothing. In fact, the pastor of the church where we sometimes went said there was really no hope for our marriage. And a lot of people were saying there was no hope for our marriage. And so it ended up, my husband went back to visit my parents, of all people, and there he met Jesus Christ and had a personal encounter with him. And when he came back, we had Christ as the foundation of our marriage. I think his favorite verse at the beginning was Ephesians 5:22. Wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. But anyway, we started studying what marriage was, and we started letting God rebuild our marriage, both being involved with Christ. Our daughter found us a church that could be our home church. We got involved in a small group that met at our home and studied the Bible there. And Carl was mentored by the pastor, the assistant pastor at the church, and all the while we were letting Christ rebuild. And it didn't happen overnight, because we had been in a bad way, that family that had their house foreclosed on and lived in a rental property. But with Christ, anything is possible, and he can take a marriage that was destined for failure and can rebuild it like he did ours. And that's why I'm passionate about marriage and educating young people on what a biblical marriage looks like. Thank you.